right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the City of Oneonta Planning Commission meeting on June 21st. I'd like to open the meeting by welcoming our newest commissioner, Susan Lettuce. Thank you so much for joining the commission and for your commitment to public service. We'll try to make this fun, but most of the time, it's only fun for me, so.
Great, thank you.
All right, quick to please do roll call members.
Chair Lappin?
Here.
Vice Chair Marino? Here. Commissioner Maskin?
Here.
Commissioner Baskin?
Here.
Commissioner Gucci? Here. Commissioner Tomino? Here. Commissioner Lattice? Here. Council members for,
Here.
Okay, correspondence. So, minutes from the May 23rd meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Are there any comments or corrections? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
so moved.
Motion made by Vice Chair Marino, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Baskin. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Approved. Okay, I'll open the floor for any petitioners. Anyone here to talk about an application or say anything to go to order?
I'm here to talk about 84 Spruce Street.
Are you the applicant?
Correct.
Okay, so we'll get to you in just a second.
All right. Sorry about that.
Okay, so I'll close the petitioner section of the meeting. We'll just keep moving. Sound good?
Sure.
Okay.
Did you,
I had comments about 84 Spruce, so I don't know whether I wait till
this would
after.
be, this would be.
This would be
So we
my
can, I
time.
mean, we can invite you when we discuss the application. So
Oh,
we
I'd
can-
rather hear that first.
Sure.
Okay.
Of course, and
Okay.
we'll reserve some time for you, so that way it's directly related to the project at hand.
Great.
Okay, next on the agenda is 84 Spruce, and I believe we have Mr. Scaleri here.
That's my brother-in-law. I'm Carlos Didino. We bought it together. He couldn't make it.
Okay, good. So, as I understand it, your brother-in-law is proposing to demolish an existing dormer located on the front facade of the property. And it's not going to be replaced in kind, you're just gonna knock it down? What are you proposing to do?
Actually, the dormer that was up on top, that was done already with the roof. We replaced the roof. We
Okay.
hired a local contractor. His name was Clapper, I believe. And the roof was shot. It was getting water inside completely, so we got that done. He said he was taking care of the permits. As far as like that we want to do is remodel the entire property because it's shot. To be honest, it's completely, windows need to be done, siding, the kitchen, the bathrooms. There's only one bathroom actually. So we want to remodel it for ourselves. We just bought it because my niece goes to school here, and my nephew's coming to school here too. And Sunny, she's on the baseball team, so we just want to have somewhere to stay when we come down to visit them.
Great. Does any of the commissioners have any questions?
Well, what are we, if the dormer's already been done, what are we necessarily approving here?
Well,
I thought there was, so that you already had demoed it, and, so you already had demoed that one thing that we're supposed to decide today, is that right, Steve? For the 84 Spruce?
Yeah. Yeah, that demolition was done without hand site plan approval.
Okay, so, I think that, so essentially it's already been done. I think that, for city code, it does require site plan review for demo work. We're trying to change that to make it administrative review, right, Steve, for smaller, some of the structures under 144 square feet or something?
Yeah, I mean, the new demolition ordinance would make it easier to remove like small accessory structures, but it specifically would make it more difficult to do that.
Okay.
Because the idea is we don't want people just like haphazardly like tearing off like architecturally significant sections of their homes just to make a roofing job easier.
So I guess the challenge that we face now is that it's already been done, so we can't, so I think, it's kind of tough for, people in the community or maybe who live outside to kind of go through the zoning code, so it's kind of difficult to go look at it retroactively. But traditionally, when folks want to do a project, we welcome you, folks to contact Steve yearly, he's a code enforcement officer, and just see if you need a permit or something. Because that would, he would be able to direct you to the relevant sections of our city code and help you kind of understand kind of how to do, what permits you need for a specific project. So that's kind of the city's expectation, we try to treat everyone the same way. But that said, I'd like to, if there are no questions from the commissioners, other questions from the commissioners, I'd like to open the floor for public comment.
Yeah, I have a comment. My name is Adele Youngs. I live right across the street from 84. For the majority of the 35 years that my family and I have lived there, this property's been in various stages of decline and has become a real eyesore on our block of Spruce Street. The last owner, before I'm sorry, I didn't catch it. Didio. He died in 2015, and the property has been in foreclosure since then. So I was really happy to hear that it had finally been sold this year, and was certainly hoping that a nice family would buy it and fix it up. But I was disappointed to find out that it was bought by someone out of town, and that it was being turned into a possible rental or maybe being flipped. That's just what I hear from other neighbors. As you know, the house, work began on the house this spring, and a new roof was put on. And although this was definitely much needed and it was an improvement to the aesthetics and the safety of the property, I was discouraged when I saw that the dormer had been removed. I think this sacrifices the historic value and the integrity of the home's architecture. In addition to that, there was a deteriorating chimney, which was also removed in April, leaving a gaping hole in the side of the house that's visible from the street. And nothing further has been done to the facade, so it's just kind of sitting there now. I believe, and I think neighbors would agree, that these small architectural details like dormers and porches and period style windows and doors and gingerbread trim give the homes their character, and they add charm and appeal to our center city neighborhood. So I've spoken to several of my neighbors about 84 Spruce, and we're all hoping that as the work continues on this property, that the owners will keep in mind those of us who make Spruce Street our home. We ask that in the future that careful attention be given when it comes to applying for and issuing the proper permits, and that the renovation choices and the maintenance of the property will follow city code and take into consideration those of us who live in the surrounding homes and have to look at it every day. We also hope that those who inhabit the house in the future, if it's rented to students or whatever, that they'll be respectful neighbors. I want to point out that several of the homes surrounding 84 Spruce have been recipients of Oneonta's Property of Merit Award, including my own home, twice. We take great pride in our properties, and by doing so, we not only raise the value of our own properties, but those of our neighbors. Our homes are our investments. And so I'm not asking that the demolished dormer be replaced. I don't even know if I could request that. But I really hope that the new owners will realize the impact that your property has on our neighborhood, and that they'll take our concerns into account during the rest of the remodeling process.
I understand. The reason why the chimney hasn't been, it was leaning towards the house, so
I
we
know.
had to take it down.
Has been for years.
And then we didn't continue because we applied for all the permits. We haven't gotten any permits yet, so that's why we haven't done anything. That's why I came today, to hopefully get the permits so we could continue.
Move forward.
As far as the dormer, we hired, like you said, we're out of town. We hired a local contractor. His name is Clapper or something like that. He said he does a lot of work around here.
Yes.
And he recommended us to take that dormer down. We didn't know. When we went in the attic, it just didn't serve any purpose. It was just leaking everywhere, and it just, the attic is very, very tight. You can't even stand in there. So I was like, okay, let's just take the dormer down. I mean, it's not serving any purpose in this attic, other than the facade outside. But if I would have known, believe me, I would have left it. If I would have known that it was like historical, is it a historical area? Like, I'm not familiar.
It is very much so. And I
Okay.
believe I was told years ago that your house was a Sears house. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
I'm
those do tend to have some historic value. Again, I don't know for sure, but that was something I heard years ago. So, you know, we'd like to see it maintained
All right,
to
I'm
its
sorry.
original style as much as possible. I know you're here to ask for, you know, that you can vinyl side it, and, you know, I have my own thoughts about that. You know, I'd hate to see it turn into a vinyl box, so,
We're gonna pause the back and
Okay.
forth discussion. I think, I appreciate your comment and your passion for the neighborhood, and congratulations. We're very glad that your property received the Property Merit Award. It's a big deal. But that said, I think we should move on to, kind of commissioner questions, and I believe Councilmember Isberger has a question.
It was actually just a follow-up to, if that's a Sears home, the Sears homes were what occurred before, they predated the Levittown house. If you're familiar with Levittown on Long Island, where shortly after World War II, that was the first real suburb that was built, where all the houses were very similar and easily built. But the Sears house was something that happened long before that. So that's, if you're correct, that is a historic home. So I think also removing things like dormers and removing things like chimneys absolutely impact the value of the home negatively. The other question I think we need to ask, and maybe this is for Stephen, is does the exhaust for the furnace go up through that chimney?
I mean, we would have to inspect,
It does not.
and we don't.
Okay.
It's a power vent unit that goes out the side. It's right next to the chimney. That chimney that was there, it was for a fireplace, the one that was taken down.
Okay, because there's many around here that double.
Correct.
You've got the fireplace piece, but then there's
Correct.
a separate chute within the chimney that.
No, this one has it in PVC. The furnace comes out in PVC out the side of the house, right next to the one that was taken down. You could see both pipes, the vent and the other.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I do. Well, I know this is a lot more fun for you than it is for me. I'm just kidding. And if I'm out of line, just let me know.
No, you're right.
But I guess I just was wondering why, what happened with that there wasn't a permit to take the dormer down? Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
City zoning code says currently that any demolition of a structure or a part thereof that is not included in like a replacement, an in-kind replacement, requires site plan approval by the planning commission.
Okay.
So I can't issue a demolition permit without site plan approval. So if someone comes to me and says, I want to demolish a dormer and not replace it,
Mm-hmm.
my response is you have to get approval from the planning commission because I can't issue demolition permits.
Okay.
But they
So-
don't have to come to you to have the roof done.
No.
So that's-
So
sounds like that's
what happened here is technically they should have, because it wasn't a reshingle. Clapper should have applied for a building permit, and they should have been denied, requiring planning commission approval. They did not. So what happened was they tore the dormer off and then reshingled, and we found out about it, and we retroactively either have to tell these people to build a new dormer, which you could deny a demolition permit, or you approve the demolition permit and someone pays a late fee for all the work that was done without permits.
But you were saying a clapper should have known.
I mean,
I guess the reason I bring it up is we
Been
had this
here a long time.
Well,
If you're doing
we had
construction
a
work in
similar
the city.
conversation in April about the sign over 189 Main
Yeah,
Street, where the person who installed the sign probably knew better. and I'm just, it's like, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just wondering what kind of message. was
welcome
sent
to,
here.
welcome to every day in the code office. People that should have known what they were supposed to do.
Yeah. So,
And
I mean,
according to
I just
Mr.
wanted to make the point.
He
I'm
was
not,
gonna
I'm not
approve, he
saying.
was gonna get the right permits.
Yeah.
According to him, he said he was gonna come down to the town and get all the permits, so.
I'm just making a point on a larger picture. It's not anything to do with your application
No,
specifically.
and oftentimes, folks who trust contractors to get the permits, oftentimes, more often than not, sometimes, they don't do that, or they don't get all the right permits in this case. It's not it's not your responsibility if you hire someone to do the project, they're supposed to do
Right.
within their scope of work, but, Commissioner Maskin brings up a good point, the city has to treat everybody the same way, right? So for those who, experienced contractors who've done a lot of work in the city, who have a reasonable, have had interactions with the code office, should understand the zoning code as it pertains to their line of work. We have to kind of think about it, consistently and fairly, since we decided that's important to us in April, which, it's been important, throughout, the commission's existence. I think that should weigh into our discussion, what do folks think about that?
Would it be reasonable to ask then what the burden is on Clapper or the homeowner to actually do a dormer? And maybe a dormer is not that hard to do, and it could be done pretty easily. And maybe if it's the contractor's burden, they missed that, maybe that's just something, cost of doing business.
It's probably $20,000 bucks.
20?
I bet it was.
I was thinking, don't think Clapper's
Oh.
gonna fly for that.
No.
No.
No,
Well, I
it's
think
probably
that-
only more.
Isn't it historical if the original is there? I mean, if you go fabricate one, it's probably not gonna be the same value. I'm just assuming, but I'm not a contractor.
Yeah, I mean, I built a house that had 5 dormers on it, and you're probably running 20 grand. I mean, if I was gonna,
But I'm saying as
Build
far as the
dormer.
historical aspect of it, if we're all talking about this, Sears house and stuff like that, I mean, that's probably historical, it goes the original parts of the home. It's not like I'm gonna take this off and put my own modern twist to it. I mean,
Well, if it's all rotting, it's all original, then you still want to replace it, like they did the roof.
We had another applicant who came for a deck replacement, I think on, Division Street area, that area of the town, I think, and what they did is they replaced the deck, but they made it as close to the original historical, image as possible. And so they had come, he had agreed to do that on his own, kind of, we asked him to, we asked him, and he said, yeah, sure. So I think that's another option that we can do, this is site plan, so we do have the ability to kind of comment on the design and the kind of layout of the, I guess the demo and what we would expect to kind of go back in, right, Steve?
yeah, I mean, you could deny the demolition. That would be
to rebuild it.
I mean, it would be a denied permit. I guess they would have to ask for some sort of relief from the planning commission's approval.
So if we deny it, they would have to essentially come back.
Yeah, I mean, I can't issue a demolition permit, so if the permit was, if demolition was done in violation of the zoning ordinance, then they would be in violation and they would have to remedy it. So I don't know, if that's the city attorney, like, what would the next step be? Like, could they appeal to the zoning board? Like, I don't even know what that process would look like.
Conversely, in theory, we could do a conditional approval if they replace it as close to the original as possible as well. That's another possibility, right?
Yeah, I mean, that would be, like, one option is you deny it, one option is you require it to be replaced, one option is you approve the demolition retroactively, basically.
Is this property in a historic neighborhood, like?
It's not in the historic district.
It's not in an officially designated historic district.
Not yet.
Not yet, but, I understand that, the cultural resources survey was recently completed, that, may recommend that we expand, or the city expand its historic districts, but that hasn't been reviewed, by council or discussed.
What constitutes a historic district?
So typically, Steve, you're the expert on this, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if there's like a group of structures that have, historic value that from a certain architectural period or have, you know, other kind of historic characteristics. Somebody, you know, a community or a nonprofit working with the community can apply to the state government and federal government to have that district designated as a historic district that kind of memorializes, you know, the series of characteristics that in fact made that group of structures or area historic in nature. And so it doesn't necessarily afford it a lot of protections, although the city of Oneonta, I think, has become or is in the process of becoming a certified local government. And so that certified local government ordinance does provide a lot of teeth to historic preservation. It requires like alterations to historic structures to go before Historic Preservation and Architectural Review Board, and places much more emphasis on protecting the historic assets of the city within those defined districts.
So do we have, and maybe Stephen could answer this, do we have residential historic districts in Oneonta?
Yeah,
We
Walnut
do,
Street.
yes.
Walnut Street.
Yeah, so the National Register process, we've completed a preliminary survey of the entire city for historic resources. So we've done a preliminary survey with the idea that we would then expand those historic districts basically expand them into other neighborhoods. That's for the National Register process. Our Architectural Review Board met for the first time this month? Yeah, it must have been June. That review board is recommending that we make local districts of the downtown historic district and Walnut Street, with the idea that we would expand local districts further, even without the National Register designation, which will take a little longer. So we're in process of essentially making that ordinance has some teeth.
So you'd be able
But it's going to be Walnut and downtown first, because those are already existing National Register districts.
That's cool. You'd be able to designate local historic districts.
We've started that, so theoretically I think we're shooting for like the September council meeting, we'd have a public hearing for that.
Well, that's exciting.
So we would have that ordinance would be applicable to, that architectural review process would be applicable to the downtown and Walnut Street.
And then that would also, you know, because it focuses on architectural review, it'd be a much more defined, you know, kind of focus on the design and layout of the building, and kind of emphasis on, you know, historic preservation and building design, whereas, you know, our review, we look at the City of Oneonta zoning code, we do have a lot of leeway in how we apply historic preservation principles, but the Architectural Review Board would be specifically focused and have the, you know, related expertise necessary to kind of carry out those in-depth reviews.
So the age of the property wouldn't have anything to do with that, or?
Well, so
Or-
it does. So,
Is it?
so neighborhoods like Spruce Street are, based on our preliminary surveys, most of the city, based on age and architectural significance, could be a National Register district. And based on that preliminary kind of survey, the recommendation moving forward is that we expand our local districts, which are the ones that actually apply that protective ordinance. That's what we're looking to do. So neighborhoods like this that are not only, I mean, they're likely eligible to be on the National Register, but that process can take like years. Whereas a local ordinance is something we do right here, and we can do that in, 2 months. So the idea is that we've now got that process created, and we're like moving forward with it, and we're doing our first kind of initial, I don't wanna call them low-hanging fruit, but they're easy. National Register districts are easy to say, if these are nationally significant, then they are clearly locally significant. It's very easy to go to the council and say, why wouldn't these be locally listed? They're nationally listed, they're on the state register, I mean, they're clearly of historic importance. Using that initial survey, we'll then go back to the council and say, we did these historic resource surveys, this is what we found, this is why these would likely be locally significant, even if they're not on the National Register yet.
Carlos, I know she said that the man that lived there died in 2015. Has it been empty? Has
No.
there been several owners?
The owner had a roommate,
Okay.
a gentleman that lived there, and he remained in the property. I'm not sure whether that was, who he paid rent to. I don't think he paid rent. I think he kept the utilities going maybe.
So when did you purchase this home?
About 3 months ago.
Okay. All right, it's a hot mess.
It's- it is.
So I like the fact, I support that you're spending all this money fixing it up. I mean, it clearly needs to be gutted and cleaned, it's like a
Mhm.
jungle in front of it. So, you know, windows are expensive, I mean, bathrooms, kitchen, I mean, you're putting a chunk of money. And I
Correct.
always commend people that come, whether they're outsiders or locals, they're spending money in our community. So I support your project. You know, I recognize that Clapper might have dropped the ball or took, you know, maybe you guys for a little ride, but, for a little ride. So it seems like you're remodeling, painting, windows, flooring, kitchen, bath. So you wanna what kind of siding do you wanna put on the house?
I'm not exactly sure yet, but if you guys don't approve the vinyl, then I won't do vinyl. I might just do like the Hardy.
Did you look for a contractor to do that?
I'm actually gonna do pretty much everything myself.
Okay, I was gonna say not Clapper.
Cause no, definitely not Clapper. I'm a
Scratch
contractor.
that, we don't want that on the record, Gary, I'm just kidding.
Like I have a contracting business myself in New
Okay.
Jersey. I'm from New Jersey.
Yeah, I see that.
So I've been in business for 20 years there, since 2001, 2002 I had my license.
My suggestion is really to become friends with Steven, so that way he's the code, so he can really tell you the things that because things in New Jersey obviously are gonna be different than
Correct.
New York. You know, but, I mean, I think that the house needs to be cleaned up and fixed
Oh,
up.
it absolutely does. But-
That
One
makes
thing
the
I can
neighborhood-
tell her-
That makes the neighborhood look bad. If he makes it nice,
Mhm.
it'll make the neighborhood look nice.
That's the idea. I
Yeah,
mean,
I don't
for
think
now
it's
we're
gonna
gonna
make it
we're gonna
messy.
use it ourselves. We're not planning on renting it or like student rental or none of that. If my niece, she's gonna be here for the next 2 years. She's on the baseball team and she's planning to stay here. If she does, then it could be something for her. If not, if we sell it, all right. I can't tell you like we're
Right.
gonna sell it tomorrow in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. The idea is to get it in shape and use it.
When you bought the house, did the realtor tell you anything about the home, like if there's anything about it? 'Cause I
No, we
feel like
couldn't see
sometimes
anything 'cause
the
it
real
was an
estate
auction.
agents drop the ball too.
It was in an auction, online auction.
Oh, okay, so you didn't even, oh.
I didn't even know anything about the property. It was my brother-in-law.
Yeah. Mm.
So, I guess we can start by, the easy part, which is a seeker review. So, I guess, even if any discretionary action, even if it's approval or, a denial, we would still have to do seeker on it. So, this is very clearly a type 2 action, which is, under section 617.5, part, I guess B, subpart 21, which refers to minor temporary uses of land which have negligible or no permanent impact on the environment. Is there a motion to classify this action as a type 2? Motion made by Commissioner Maskin, second. Seconded by Vice Chair Marino. Any discussion? Clerk, could you do a roll call vote?
Chair Loppin?
Yes.
Vice Chair Marino?
Yes.
Commissioner Maskin?
Yes.
Commissioner Maskey?
Yes.
Commissioner Gucci?
Yes.
Commissioner Tomatoes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lenz?
Yes.
So now on to the site plan application. So I think kind of first part is that, I think, kind of what requires site plan is that, demolition which already occurred. I think that as, Commissioner Tomino pointed out, I think it goes without saying that, we have a great deal of, respect and gratitude that you're fixing up a property that's long since been an eyesore. I think we all are in agreement that the remodeling of the house will raise property values. I think at issue here is the demo of, the dormer, and how we want to, without a permit, which is not your responsibility, it's the contractor. contractor's responsibility, and how, you know, and considering how, you know, our past positions on needing appropriate permits, you know, how does this commission feel like we should proceed? So, you know, there's, I guess I can start, with, you know, as Steve pointed out, there's a few options. You know, I think with any denial, there's a challenge of, you know, the project not being able to move forward and it kind of still being in flux until the relief from either this commission or the zoning board based on consultation with the city attorney is achieved. You know, if we approve with a, you know, condition of replacing the dormer, you know, that would allow the project to proceed, but it would be at a higher cost. Likely, that would be deferred onto the, you know, Mr. Didio who's here. So, and if we approve retroactively, then we'd be kind of going against what we've decided in the, you know, in April about having, the importance of having appropriate permits going forward. So it's more of, you know, on this commission, you know, to reverse course. You know, I think there's as Commissioner Masking pointed out, there's a reason, the circumstances are reasonably similar. You know, in this case, it's a contractor who has extensive experience working with the city of Oneonta and going through doing projects here. And it's understood that they should, you know, they're probably likely very well aware that they needed a permit. So
how do you typically, I'm the new one, so maybe I have an easier role here, but how do you typically treat these when someone does something first and then without permission and ask for permission later?
well,
It's a good question.
I mean, I think it kind of flies in the face of this, you know, established processes. You know, it really does put the reviewing body in a very difficult position, right? You know, in our case, you know, if we say no, you didn't do it the right way, then, you know, the project slows down. But at the same time, if we say, yeah, sure, you know, it gives the impression to others that they can do something first and then ask for permission later, which is not, you know, which kind of undermines the city zoning code and undermines the ability of, you know, codes to do their job and us do our job as a reviewing agency. Because, Commissioner Masking?
Are you done?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No,
I can go on longer, but.
I was about to ask the same.
I didn't want to interrupt, but I guess, you know, my point is that if we don't approve it, I mean, all of the onus falls back on the homeowner, where it's really the contractor that screwed up, and I'm not sure that we're in any position to be able to do anything about that. But it wasn't my intent to jam the homeowner up. I just wanted to make the point that this, you know, this happened twice in the last 3 months. I wasn't at the last meeting, maybe some of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, in any case, you know, the best we can do, you know, is to educate folks about the city zoning code and the importance of kind of meeting with Steve early, you know, before you know, right when you think about doing something, pre-design, and then work with Steve iteratively throughout the design process, and then you apply for your permit, so that way you know what you're doing, you kind of go about it the right way. I think going back, kind of like retroactively to approve is tough. You know, it's a tough pill. I think that, you know, it's a it's a balancing act. I think that.
Do we have to do one of those options?
No.
Well, we don't wanna stall the project, cause it really needs to be fixed.
No, so you could-
I mean, it's terrible, no, you know, no offense, but we also don't wanna put him in a financial hardship, and then it doesn't get
Right.
done, and then next, you know, we have another house that's just kinda sitting and really, you know, there's only so much you can, you know.
Is it possible to move forward in a productive way, whatever work happens next, you know, try to meet whatever guidelines that we have?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what we have authority to
We-
set
we
as
can-
far as siding, for example.
We can do conditional. I think like we're looking at the demo permit, so we can ask for an in-kind replacement. Right, Ken?
So, the site plan review is related to the demolition. I mean, what you could say is like, the site plan approval is based on, you know, the removal of historic characteristics of the home, so moving forward, you know, the applicant, basically in exchange for the dormer, maybe the applicant has to use a historically permitted siding type, or, you know, can't remove certain other architectural features, or, like, the purpose of the demolition
That's fair.
and the purpose of the site plan review is to prevent the demolition of things like dormers and removal of architecturally significant aspects of the property. So you could make a site plan approval based on kind of a trade-off, like we've lost this dormer, it's going to be financially difficult, I mean, it would be a hardship to replace that dormer.
20,000.
I'm not throwing out quotes here, but
You're about right.
a dormer of that size, I mean, shingles and windows, I mean, it's gonna be 20 grand if you pay someone to do that, at least, like, that's just, so I mean, maybe what we say is like, moving forward, we put stipulations on the exterior work that's gonna happen as part of the site plan review, so that we don't have a porch getting torn off, or, you know, any other architecturally significant aspects of the house being impacted.
So we have some, and I guess, yeah, I think so.
I mean, your other options, you just say, yeah, you gotta put the dormer back, we're denying the permit, and that's, I mean, I don't know if that is the best option, and I don't know if that gives you the best result.
I'm not sure that's productive.
No,
Right.
yeah, so maybe, I like Steve's course of.
I like that, I think that, don't you think that's fair?
That's fair.
yeah,
I think so,
some-
I mean,
Sounds
and that's why I
fair.
said befriend him, because he'll tell you that's gotta stay or that's gotta be fixed, I mean, I don't know how much more stuff on that house is historical.
I guess we
Is
would,
there a lot more on that house that's historical?
I mean,
I think
I
it's
would
all
argue
original.
all of it, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think it's all original still. I mean, don't you? I mean,
Yes.
just like the porch and the windows, I'd hate to see those go. I know
The
they're
windows are-
probably,
You can't even open them.
yeah, at least if they were replaced, you know, with a similar style. I mean, it's got a lot of really nice features. It's a mess, you're right, it's a hot mess. But, I think the architecture that's there is.
I mean, I think there's gotta be some kind of a balance, but I mean, you can't, you know, the way everything costs today. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gotta be
That's
feasible
true.
for him to fix it, cause if
Right.
it's off the charts, then it's gonna continue looking, his thing's gonna be, well, just leave it the way it is.
well, I mean,
Cause it's livable.
But is it in a
It's
historical
livable, it's just-
area or is it not? Because I'm a little confused.
It's not yet,
It's
but
not?
it's still a historical home, so you should try
Okay.
to maintain the historical integrity as
Okay.
much as you can moving forward.
and it's like, I mean, I think that, you know, we can't, you know, it needs to build off of Commissioner Mikuchi's point, or Dr. Mikuchi's point, sorry.
Thanks.
I think that, you know, the city is clearly moving towards expanding its historical districts and, you know, clearly prioritizes historic preservation as kind of a governing unit generally, right? So that we're moving in that direction, we're likely to. So I think that my thought is, you know, the question that I had is that we already have in our zoning code, you know, for downtown, we have like historic preservation guidelines based on the Secretary of the Interior standards, and I guess, you know, if those guidelines apply in like a neighborhood like that, Steve, could we make that?
I mean, you would have to change the legislation. I mean, those guidelines aren't applicable to that particular neighborhood.
Steve, is there like a website or, someone that Carlos could call to find out exactly what the historic is about that home? Like if it is a Sears, if it is,
Yeah, he could ask us. What's the address, 84 Sears?
Hateful.
Let me give you my card.
is there someone else on the state level, or is it just from the historic, like this? I
I
mean,
mean,
isn't it like people can go in and like put an address? I'm curious for myself, cause I'm not always.
Yeah, I mean, so like this particular property it's not in a historic
Just email
district.
me.
Thank you.
It's not in historic district.
No.
So it's not in historic
So-
district. We just wanna find out what if it's got anything special.
I think,
It really doesn't. But I mean, you guys are welcome. You guys are welcome to drive by. It's
To me,
2
it does,
blocks
that's why I
away.
asked.
I think Greater Oneonta Historical Society is probably it's you know, the most suited to.
Yeah, I mean, we can, you know, look up our city directories, how, you know, history of the home, homeowners, when it was built, who lived there, how it's changed, blah, blah, blah.
But are we
gonna give them guidance today so that they can?
I think that, you know, that's what kind of what we wanted to get at is like, you know,
Yeah.
it's tough for, I think, you know, one possible, you know, stipulation that we could pay, you know, is like any, you know, renovations, do their best to, you know, I guess, maintain the original materials in the house and, you know, to the greatest extent practicable, perhaps.
Can I at least start inside? Like
So-
gutting inside, cause inside
So
has to
the
be.
deal with the actual building permit you applied for, it has nothing to do with this.
Okay.
You have a stop work order because you started work without a permit and
'Cause
you
it-
removed the dormer. So my solution to the dormer, or my potential feedback on the dormer, is simply saying, in the future, exterior renovations would not include like removal of architecturally significant elements. That would be like the porch, like,
Windows, siding.
Well, not just windows, but one of our neighbors had shared with us, and I don't know if this is true, Carlos, I'm Hannah, I live on the corner, I'm just jumping in. That one of your plans potentially was to vinyl over some of the existing windows, and and I don't know if that's your plan, but that
No.
would be so hideous.
No,
And I'm so sorry to say that, but
I'm planning to replace the windows, cause you can't even, they don't work.
yeah,
Okay,
and I have
yeah.
some original windows in my house, so I feel that they're not in nice condition. and I
No,
don't
I'm
want
not
them
planning
will
to
be,
close up any windows, just replace them with new windows. The porch is shot as well. I'm leaving the porch, I was just gonna rebuild it, a new porch. But,
yeah, so I mean, that's what I would recommend, is that future replacement be in kind,
Okay.
Right.
which
So
would
that's-
include
But
the
Stephen,
porch.
correct me if I'm wrong, because it's not yet delineated as a historical neighborhood, he doesn't have to historically renovate his property.
Correct.
We're just going to suggest, because as kind of like a,
I'm saying what I would say is like a conditional approval
Right.
for site plan
So-
right,
that isn't replace a dormer because we're denying your demolition permit.
Right.
Yeah, so.
So I guess I'm trying to split the baby on
I
this.
think it's a so it'd be, if I'm understanding correctly, it'd be an approval with conditions, so failure to meet the conditions would, violate the approval, and you can be back to
Correct.
kind of square one.
Right.
So I think that does have
Yeah.
some teeth, and I like how Steve phrased it, so it'd be, conditional approval, which maintains key architectural elements, and if replacements are necessary, that it be done in kind.
Right.
Can I ask
Yeah.
2 questions?
We'll go to Commissioner Littis and then to Councilor Risberger.
That was one of my questions. Do you plan on closing in any of the windows that are there right now?
I was gonna close up on the bedrooms in the back of the house, being that the way they're very small. There's 2 windows in each bedroom, and there's no wall for, like, say, if a kid or anybody to put your TV. So I was planning to close up 1 window on each bedroom, and only in the bedrooms in the back, which will be covered with the new siding. But if it's not allowed, I'll just replace the windows.
And then my second question is, it looks like the house, I was just looking at it online, it sort of has 2 tones, and maybe that's
Correct.
part of the charm of that house.
Yes.
So is that something you're considering, maintaining some sort of a 2-tone sort of siding look, or?
I wasn't, but again, if you guys tell me to make it 3 toes, I'll make it 3 toes.
That's not asking.
No, those are good questions. But I think that, Commissioner Mitchell, she hit the nail on the head. Like, it is not, sorry, I don't mean to be mean, but it's not a historical district. It might be special, and it probably has some special characteristics, but again, it has to be cost effective for him too, and he is going to be spending money on it. If you can just make it nice for the
Oh,
neighborhood.
it's gonna be nice.
Can I jump in here?
Sure, of course.
So it's currently, and hi, I actually represent the ward that this house is in. So, it's true, that house is not in a historic district at the moment. It probably will be in a short while. So, this house is an investment for you, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So ideally, when you wanna fix it up, use it, sell it, make money on it, make a profit from it. That's a positive investment. It's gonna be a much better investment if, when you sell it, if it happens to then be in a historic district and you did your best to maintain as much historic character as you could, versus removing parts or closing up windows for convenience, because that's really convenience, to be able to put
Yeah.
TVs up.
It is.
That is actually going to reduce the value of that home in a case like that for people that would want to buy that home. So I would recommend, and as somebody that likes to invest, it's a much better investment in this case to try to maintain as much as possible. And I understand having to replace things and fix things, and this house needs a ton of work, and I appreciate that. But I think in the end, you're gonna be much happier with your investment if you try to maintain as much as you can.
I agree.
I think that's.
I wouldn't have took that dormer down if I would have known that. I went by what
Yeah, you
Mr.
got this
Clapper,
lot, but-
Yeah.
he said, listen, let's just take that down, it's not doing, I was like, all right, I mean, you're right, let's
I mean,
take it
if
down.
Someone's standing in front of you and they're an experienced contractor, you're from out of town, you're like, okay, you know.
To be honest, I had 5 contractors there that day, roofing contractors, and this guy got recommended. He does work here, so I was like, let's go with, he's a little more money, but let's go with him because he's from town or he does a lot of work here. Let's just go. I figure he knows he told me I'm gonna go take care of the permit, everything.
You did. I mean, you did your best, and we're grateful for your patience as we, debate this. So I think like we're kind of there's, I think the most important piece is that, if we do expand, over, the historic district over time, I think like, there are various historic preservation tax credits available, but I think those have to be only if you're in an eligible state.
Yeah, so those tax credits are not applicable until it's been designated as a national register.
Okay, so that's gonna be your.
So that's gonna be like, it just takes a while to process all that.
Everybody on that street's gonna be calling you, Steve. We're calling you, like, can you look me up? I need money. I wanna be on that.
Well, we get that a lot.
I think there are like kind of other ways that we're saving. If you're doing like renos, you're doing like new lighting, windows and stuff. There's there's local organizations who do like free energy audits and walkthroughs and help you with rebate applications and make you can save money a little bit. But I think like kind of going back to the demo where kind of there's I think we have an emphasis on 2 things, if I understand correctly. The first and most important is that you can actually do the project. It's cost effective. It's within your price range, and we're not going to stop you, create a undue financial burden by any stretch. But the other piece is that conditional approval, maintaining the architectural, key architectural features of the structure, and doing any replacements in kind, so. How do we, since we're at that, we've kind of agreed on those kind of 2 talking points. One value statement and one kind of pathway for approval. Are we ready to kind of discuss, moving forward with the site plan application?
Yeah, no, I would agree with what Steve talked about with the conditional approval.
Yeah.
I think that's the most fair way to go about it.
Me too.
Great. So I think the first thing is they have everything they need for the demolition permit, which they do. So I guess we can, so a lot of the required, like again, I guess we could make them, if we want to do it they're really robust way, because a lot of our site plan review law requires a lot of different types of plans that aren't germane to a demo permit.
Yeah.
So I guess we would want to, have a motion deeming, this, application complete, and then we waive all the non-applicable, portions of our site plan review of this project.
You don't need a grading plan, because you're not doing grading.
And we also don't need a utilities plan, landscaping plan for, demo, so.
Yeah. Not for this demo.
Not for this one. So,
Did you wanna do approval of the demolition, so that way that gets out of the way and then,
I'd
or
wanna,
are you putting it all together?
I think what I'd wanna do first is just say that, have an official motion saying that we have everything we need and we're waiving some of the requirements. And we don't wanna do that just in the event that's, let's say someone freaks out and says like, oh, you put it incorrectly, we're gonna sue. So we wanna make sure we do that, because then they would throw things that we missed at, as potential roadblocks, but not.
That's why I'm watching someone's happening, so I know the weak spots.
Yeah, exactly. We know you're watching this. Just, you never can be too careful, I guess. So is there a motion deeming the application complete, waiving non-applicable portions of the site plan review law?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Lettuce, second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Kikuchi. the demolition site plan application. And the conditions are that all key architectural features of the building are maintained going forward, and that any replacements of, said architectural features are done in kind. Did I capture that correctly, Steve?
Don't ask me.
I don't think that's what he said, but,
Okay.
I think he said approval of the demolition, and then if he's doing any exterior work,
Yeah, I mean, I
that
think the
he,
intent here is the exterior.
exterior work is, done in kind and in accordance with code enforcement.
Okay, so I
Is
guess,
that a good one?
yeah,
So what I'm thinking is what you're looking at is like size and location of windows.
Yeah.
The porch being maintained in its current size, style.
so I guess it would be.
I don't know if you wanna get into the realm of like, so like for example, you could replace a double hung sash window and it can mirror the original and not be a 1916 double hung sash window. I mean, so I don't know if we wanna get crazy, but I think that the importance of size and location of windows, size and location of porch, size and location of exterior architectural elements like the window trim, exterior trim on the building. I mean, I think those are easy, and I think that those are a balance to the removal of the door.
Okay, so then it would be.
Add that into my, I'll make that motion.
Let me read it back.
Got a lecture?
I have most of it. Hang on,
Add
I went
that
back to add
that
stuff
into
in.
mine.
I had to start typing, I type faster than
That's giving you to the exterior, I mean, he's gotta go through codes anyways, it's even
We'll
the
keep all the
interior
windows.
stuff, but, you know,
Well, I think like, I don't think you have to necessarily, and this pains me to say, I'm not saying, I don't think you have to keep the original window, but I think the size, location, and style.
No, what I mean is the location of each
Yeah.
window, just replace them.
Yeah. I think that's a
Exactly where they
reasonable
are. Size, same size,
style.
Same style.
size, yeah, okay.
it's fair.
I think that's what we're shooting for.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
okay.
Motion that the planning commission approves the site plan review as presented with the condition that all key exterior architectural features to include size and or location of windows, porches, and exterior architectural elements are maintained moving forward.
He also said exterior trim,
Trim.
but I don't know if that's.
Those are just architectural
Elements, yeah.
features.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like an elaborate Italian made or something.
It's already got that.
Easy to
Yeah.
To include, and maybe it says including but not limited to, or maybe to include.
It's your guys' motion, to include or including but not limited to.
What was he changing?
So instead of features to include or features including but not limited to. So kind of go including but
I
not
would
limited to.
go with included but not limited to.
So I guess it's so we have a motion made by,
I want her to see it finally.
Yeah.
We'll read it back.
To approve it, that you approve it.
You're approving the site plan review with the condition that all key exterior architectural features, including but not limited to size and location of windows, porches, and exterior architectural elements are maintained moving forward.
Fair.
Okay, so I'm not even gonna try to reread that, or reiterate that from memory. So we have a motion made by Commissioner Tamaino, second. Seconded by Commissioner Maskin. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, quickly please do roll call vote.
Chair Locken,
Yes.
Vice Chair Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Maskin,
Yes.
Commissioner Baskin,
Yes.
Commissioner Fuji,
Yes.
Commissioner Traina,
Yes.
Commissioner Levis.
Yes.
I'm excited to see this change,
Me too.
because Metro Five,
I've been
it's
on
a
that.
jungle.
Well, common saying, it takes a village.
Now, can I take the trees in front of
Oh,
them?
please.
Yeah,
I don't want them trees to be historical.
No, we're gonna bring you back for another hour-long meeting, just from that.
3.5 hour drive.
Well, you're
Welcome to Oneonta.
We do appreciate Thank you
It
very
does,
much.
it does get easier from here. Thank
Yeah.
you. Welcome to the community. We're grateful that you're
Thank you.
choosing to invest here. So thank you very much.
Good luck.
Now,
Thank
we
you.
can
Yeah,
start
good
with
luck.
the interior?
Yeah, I'll sign the permit tomorrow.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll look over it just to make sure there's nothing missing, but I think it's all sitting on my desk.
Can I have your phone number, just so if I have any questions before I do anything, I'd like to call you, come down.
Yeah.
This way we don't do the clapper.
433.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I like it. Do the clapper. Maybe.
433-3435.
What's the area code?
607.
Um, There's no.
607? 433?
Yep.
Yeah.
3435.
So let's
Steve, correct?
let's move on with the agenda and we can
Oh, I'm
adjourn. So we can meet the Dan Maskin rule of an hour-long meeting. So let's do. Is there any